CBC News has decided not to show any part of the video that sparked the anti-American violence.
That was CBC a few months ago saying they wouldn't show the video Innocence of Muslims. You remember that YouTube video that caused riots around the world and caused an attack on the embassy in Benghazi, except that that's not what caused it. But that was what people were pinning the blame on. And as it's part of a huge international story, CBC said they wouldn't show the video, which makes it more interesting. This week, as Christians are marking Holy Week, as they get prepared for Easter, as today is Holy Thursday, earlier this week, they decided to air a story about an artist that shoots bullet holes in a painting of Jesus. Here it is.
His paintings attract widespread attention because he uses a technique you'll find only in Canada.
Think more about the issues,
Victor Mitic wants people who see his art to feel the reality of the gun violence he says permeates our culture, even if seeing a canvas riddled with bullet holes makes them uncomfortable. That's really the point of his art, the coexistence of beauty and violence. Bullets creating art instead of destroying life.
Let's say the image of Jesus Christ, the way it is, symbolizes something very good, something pure, the beauty, the peace, all these things, they're positive. And I created an image of him using bullet holes, embedding the opposite in it immediately. I don't think the guns should exist. I don't think anybody should own a gun. It's made for one purpose only. It's made to kill.
Only made for one purpose, to kill, and for you to do your artwork. Sir, by the way, he apparently did that artwork with a Glock and an M14. That's similar to the rifle that everyone once banned, the AR-15. Yeah, that's being talked about everywhere. I reached out to CBC for comment on their double standard, or what I see as a double standard. They did not get back to me, not in time anyway. We'll continue to ask them, do they have a double standard? Faith Goldie joins us now for a chat more about this. Faith, people that have watched you appear on this show and elsewhere regularly will know that you're practicing Christian. You are going to be spending Easter an awful lot of time this weekend at church, I believe. Does it bother you that CBC has a double standard, or you're more bothered by the artwork?
Oh, no, for sure, the very first point that there is a double standard. But I got to say, Brian, thank you very much for having me on. This combines all of my favorite topics: anti-gun, anti-religion, and, of course, the state broadcaster, my favorite group of folks, that's for sure. No, Brian, by no means am I here to tell folks that CBC should not have aired this. It's a controversy. And, part of the controversial aspects of this story is that there are bullet holes through what many would say, myself included, as their Lord and Savior. That's a controversy, so that really should be part of the controversial story. But what really irks me, Brian, is the fact that there is a blatant double standard when you consider the fact that there was a much larger controversy, the death of 4 patriots, Americans, that was being linked to a controversial video that the CBC, in their great judgment, decided not to air. The CBC can say that they're friends of religion, but the thing is, let's be very clear, they're afraid of one religion, and that's Islam. And very much, they should wake up and smell the Folgers, by the way, because very much like how when Ezra was running the Western Standard, they aired those Danish cartoons of Muhammad with bombs in his turban. Guess how many Canadian Muslims got up and protested? Guess how many went out and to blow up buildings? None. Exactly.
There was protest, and there was the whole issue of the Human Rights Commission, but there was nobody committing violence. We're not a violent country.
Violent protest is what I should have said. Certainly.
Now, so this gentleman with the painting,
right?
We're showing the painting and we're showing the video, Innocence of Muslims. I don't want to see the painting. But it's part of a story, so we're going to talk about it. I don't think that I should be able to say he can't do it. Just like I'm not going to say I don't think that Buddy should have made his bad YouTube video. It's bad art, it's bad YouTube videos.
Right.
So they don't have a lot to offer in that way. But it is shocking for CBC to do this. And then I think the timing, though. The timing is on purpose. I once said to a young reporter, if you don't know a lot about religion, you don't know when it's Holy Week, just look for all the anti-Christian stories to come out. And that's when you know that Easter's coming. If you don't know that Easter's showing up because of the chocolate and the religious things and everything else, just look for the anti-Christian stories. I think that's what this is part of.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll throw the CBC a bone here insofar as this exhibit opens on April 4th, so perhaps the timing was more so geared to being pro this exhibit, not so much anti-Holy Week. I will give them that perhaps. I'm honestly considering going outside of the art exhibit, by the way, maybe protesting, or I don't know, strapping on some sort of a burqa and heading down south of the border and shooting some pictures of Muhammad. Do you think that the CBC will cover that?
No, I don't think that they would.
Oh,
and
that's too bad.
That's the disturbing part.
Yeah.
We either, we've been talking about all kinds of issues surrounding free speech this week, including Mark Warwa in the House of Commons. He lost his bid, but the fact is, CBC is supposed to be a public broadcaster. I call them the state broadcaster. That is an accurate term. It's what they called themselves for decades, and I've made it unpopular now. But they're the state broadcaster. They're owned by all of us. They should be reflective of all Canadians. They have a different set of rules when dealing with Christian objects than they do Islamic objects.
Yeah,
that is the shame.
And Brian, Occam's razor would tell us, you know what, CBC didn't air innocence of Muslims because it didn't want to offend people. Well, guess what? A lot of news stories offend people. That's just the way she goes. And for the sake of freedom of speech, I would say that that CBC, rather than saying, oh, it doesn't reflect Canadian values, well, perhaps we as Canadians have to re-examine our values and decide, are we going to be a touchy-feely, lovey-dovey society that is not going to air innocence of Muslim, but then in the same note doesn't air, bulletproof Jesus? Or are we going to basically grow the thick skin of modernity and say, hey, any sacred cow, let's barbecue it. It's fair game.
All right, Faith, good talking to you. Happy and blessed Easter to you.
Have a blessed Easter.
Before we go, I want to let people know, lots of you, while I was away last week, there was this campaign to get my book, CBC Exposed, nominated for an award at the state broadcaster. They have the CBC Bookies. Now, surprisingly, I didn't make the cut, despite hundreds of you going and nominating. Here's some of the comments that were left on CBC's site that they're just ignoring. Definitely CBC Exposed, greatest and most factual book about CBC ever written. Is CBC Exposed by Brian Lilly probably the best research piece of non-fiction to come from the pen of a Canadian in generations? And Brian Lilly, CBC Exposed, gets my 2 thumbs up. Well, it gets your thumbs up. It doesn't get the thumbs up of CBC. You want some Easter reading? We'll put up the posting on Facebook so that you can buy a copy, download it quickly for Kindle, or you can order it through Amazon or chapter stores across Canada. Stick around. We've got more to come.